All right. What was I going to say? Okay. What's up, true believers? It's Mason here with Comics and Crosses, where we discuss the eternal truths behind our modern mythology. And today is something special. I'm here with my new friend, Chris Hicks of Creative Talks with Chris Hicks. That's his podcast. You may know him from. And then also a big thing we're wanting to talk about right now is his upcoming comic, Dark Hero, which he was explaining to me. And I'm super excited to see this come out, going to be available, but I'll let him tell you all about that. So, Chris, how you doing, man?
Hey man, thanks for having me on. That was a great intro.
Yeah, well, I am excited, and my favorite thing lately to do is talk to creators because I'm a writer myself. I hope to one day be in your shoes, telling people about my projects, and so it's cool to hear. Because if you're writing a comic book, you're passionate about it. You got a cool story to tell, and it's just going to be a beautiful thing to see it come to fruition, right? So,
Oh, definitely. Yes.
100%. So, okay. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself, if you could, including you mentioned to me you're from Sacramento, where I'm from. What's tell me a bit about your story and how you got into comics.
Oh, good old Sacktown, right?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't been back in 15 years. I'm originally a Bay Area kid. I grew up in the East
Okay.
Bay. Dublin, it was my stomping grounds until high school, and then my family we moved to Sacramento, actually the Elk Grove area. I went to Laguna Creek High School, if you know where that's at.
Okay. No, I do not, but I know where Elk Grove's at. Yeah, I grew up
Yeah.
in San Jose in the South Bay, then moved out here 2 years ago, and been living here. And I gotta tell you, I don't know if you're aware of this. Maybe you are from your time here, but man, there's way more comic shops in Sacramento than there ever was in San Jose for some reason.
I noticed a little bit of a cultural boom of that kind of sort when I left. I think it was 2007. I think maybe I was there last. But no, I mean, I wasn't plugged into the comic book shops as much as a teenager.
Hmm.
I think I lost my way as a comic book nerd for a little while.
Me
So
too.
I didn't I didn't really associate that kind of stuff with Sacramento. Music is big. I don't know if it's still big up there, but like there's a big underground music culture. I remember seeing a lot of bands who made it big, um, and there were Sacramento area, Bay Area bands as well. So I
Totally.
know the music scene is really cool up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and another reason is you come from also a film background, right? You're doing movies and comics. Sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on.
yeah, I like to stay busy. I started my I would say I started my career with loosely, but I started as an actor at age of 8. I started doing commercials. I was discovered by my third grade teacher after doing plays. I don't think she discovered me because I was really good at acting. I think she just discovered that I was precocious and wasn't shy, and
Mm.
I kind of got the things. I kind of got what it was. This is a play. I'm being a character. I wasn't nervous, so I started my career that way, and I started doing plays and stuff in high school. Um, and then after that, I moved to Los Angeles to give my good old acting hat a try. So I couch surfed on like a bunch of people's couches for like 2.5 years. I had so much fun, man. Like I've never been more broke in my life, but I've never been more happy in my life than I was bumming around, going to auditions and doing stupid commercials that some of them were local TV commercials for Del Taco
Yeah.
and some of them were like fitness board games that went bankrupt before the commercial was aired, so it never got. I just did stupid shit, and I met a ton of cool people, and I realized really quickly that I didn't like. I loved when I got cast as like extra work. I really loved just hanging around
Yeah.
and learning things and talking to people because I don't know if you know anything, you probably do a little bit, but when you're an extra, you're there forever until they need you,
Hmm.
and they might need you for 15 seconds, but you have to be there all day.
Hurry up and
So,
wait. Yeah.
right, hurry up and wait is where it goes. And it's a special breed of people that get to, if you're listening to this and you're an extra, you're fucking awesome. I love you. You make the world go around in the film community. You bring the backgrounds to life. If it wasn't for extras, like they don't get enough credit. Anyway, so I would spend time around,
You
dude, I
seen
would
the
spend
show?
Right?
The Ricky Gervais show, the extra show, that was hilarious.
It was. It
Mhm.
was. But I started talking to people, and I started getting interested and kind of questioning myself as an actor too, because things kind of got weird for me. People just being an actor and having people pull at you and prod at you and question like everything, and they tell you you're not good or you're good, you need to, you look young, you're too old. All that stuff kind of it just gets on you, and I didn't know if I really wanted to go down that road. And I was thinking to myself, well, what can I do? And basically, long story short, I figured out that I wasn't an actor, that I was a storyteller. I didn't realize that until I had to like kind of go through the process. So once I told my agent I wasn't going to be an actor anymore, she got mad at me, which is fine. It happens. And so I just started getting extra work on my own just so I could learn and be on sets. And so that kind of I went from that to being a PA, and I did like all kinds of jobs on movie sets. So when I moved to the Midwest, not that's another long story. I started writing. I didn't know anybody here, and I'm coming from California. I basically, for me, it felt like I moved to another country. So I was like completely shell shocked and culture shocked, and I also needed a creative outlet, and I knew I wanted to do it. So I just said, "Look, I'm gonna learn how to write. I'm gonna learn how to write movies, and I'm gonna learn how to. Well, first I had to learn how to write because boy was I a horrible writer, and then I had to learn the craft, and then you. So I spent since about like 2007, I've been working as a screenwriter, but also on getting myself involved on every project I can get my hands on, indie, big budgets. I've been on Hollywood sets. I've been on Netflix sets. I've been on, $1 million sets to $5 sets. And I've been on all kinds of them, done all kinds of jobs just to kind of get my feet wet. I call it my, what do you say, like the poor man's education. You know what I mean? I got my film education through Hard Knocks, just
Great.
doing it, So I
Getting
started producing my own films back in 2013, my own short films after I felt like I could, handle it and do it right. So so my background leading into this comic book that we were talking about, it started with my filmmaking, and I'm still in love with film. Like that is my first love. My first passion is probably um, the theater and seeing movies. Like to me, you can't beat it. Like
Mhm.
it's where that storytelling and that passion came from is always going to be movies. I'm always going to want to go back and
Mhm.
and be a movie guy or be a filmmaker, but independently. Sorry, I went a little long on that one, but
No, not at
yeah,
all. I feel
yeah,
what you're saying. I definitely have a love for film, and I, got into screenwriting, and then, but I think that I tell people, as a filmmaker, spending some time in comics is great to really look at those panels and think about those shots, and I think it can
yes,
exercise your mind
yes,
in the same way it does a director. To
very much so. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
the
Yes,
focus
sir.
where the lens is in the comic book is great, and I feel like it's been kind of revitalizing that filmmaking mind of mine, the more that I read.
No, I agree. And as I was discovering this process, because this was my first time going at it, I was drawing parallels. I was talking to my producers. I was like, you know what? This is a lot like storyboarding. This is a lot like me. Like when I was talking with the artist, it was a lot like having conversations with the DP. It was
Yeah.
like, okay, here's how I see the shot. This scene, right? This chunk, I want it close, or I want it far away. I want it established. And what I learned really quickly is my scripts translate to comic books really well because of the medium um, of storyboarding and already seeing those shots, in your head. Most I don't. Yeah, it's just, long story short, I was right there with you, man. I experienced that too, and it also made me think about what other stories I have, what other scripts I have that maybe I can't physically make because it's too expensive or too time consuming, or I just maybe don't have the skill or the talent to pull it off. But that is prime. It's perfect for a comic book
Yeah,
or a graphic novel.
yeah, for somebody who has a story that they maybe you originally see it as a movie, but there are no limitations when you get into the comic book world. I mean, it's just let's get creative, and anything that we want to visualize, let's visualize it and
Yeah,
tell
we can
that story.
make it happen. We don't have to worry about how we're gonna do it. It's
Absolutely.
brilliant. Yeah.
Okay, well that's awesome. And so so now this project, uh, Dark Hero, we see you're coming from a film background and obviously have a lot of creativity going on, and now there's this project Dark Hero that you already started up with the Indiegogo. What is this project and where's it at?
So we launched Indiegogo for Dark Hero January. No, it ended January 7th. So we launched right before Christmas. My first kind of experience doing this sort of thing. So I was a little apprehensive. I, did my research and talked to as many people as I could that were running their own successful Kickstarters and comic books. As I think any good writer or good creative person does, they want to do their research before they just kind of dive in. I'm all for diving in, but it's best to kind of, talk to people and get on the same level. So we did that. We tried to raise funds. We didn't quite hit our goal, but we made enough money to finish the artwork and get a digital copy version of the comic book available for people to purchase. So what originally was, it was going to be like I was going to do them back to back, like these campaigns back to back to back to get the 6 issues out, because the full story of Dark Hero originally was a script. I saw it as a story, so it's a huge 3-act narrative, and I had to like condense it. It might even be more issues if I if the artist and I don't shrink some things up a little bit, because the type of story I'm telling, it's non-linear. So, but it's also, in order to fully understand the character of Alpha Man or Dark Hero, he's not dark. People call him out. The story is Dark Hero, but he's Alpha Man. You have to kind of understand this world that you built for him, or the impacts towards the end of the story don't have as much oomph. So I had to kind of thicken out it's really what's interesting is because this is a comic book, and when I translated it to that form, I rethought the entire narrative of the film. Originally, this was just going to be an independent, little gritty independent film on a rooftop with with 2 actors, and one of them is Dark Hero. The other one is this journalist guy trying to get Dark Hero's story, and we learn about Dark Hero's story from him telling it to this journalist. I wanted to just do something simple, yet what would capture people's imagination would be the way that Dark Hero talked about being a superhero. That would be like, so I can get around not having all these fancy cool things, because like you're interested in this story and like you're thinking it's going to be one thing and it's completely different.
Okay, so that was my next question. So we got Alpha Man. He is the character in this Dark Hero, but it sounds like you're describing a superhero story, and yet what's different about your superhero story?
I think what's different about my superhero story is I ask a lot of what ifs. Um, I ask, like, what does it really mean to be a hero, to be a superhero? And I think a lot of, because you hit, like, we talked about this before. I draw parallels with Superman on purpose. I'm not even hiding that. I think the reason why I do draw parallels is because I think comic book readers like you and me, I can introduce a character and you go, oh, that's kind of like Superman. Well, guess what you just did? You just filled in some backstory. I don't have to do that for you because you get it. You go, okay, that's like a Superman. I just explained years and years of issues to you just by you going, okay, that's like that's like a superhero guy. So I kind of know where this character's at a little bit. You know what I mean? So I can work with you from there. But I think what makes mine different is, um, especially for comic book readers, we see all these comic books, and then it's like you get to see the other side of it, the other side of being a hero. I think what makes it different is there are unheroic things that happen along this Superman type person's journey. I want to tell those stories. I want to tell the not so black and white stories of being a superhero, good versus bad. Well, yeah, well, what's bad? Well, what's good? Oh shit, where do you draw the line? Where's the blur? Oh, it's gray as hell. Oh man, you could become cynical. Like, how would you feel if, the weight of the world was on your shoulders, but then the only thing keeping you going was the fact that these people had the weight of the world on you, but then they flipped the script and turn on you. So is everything that you just went through worth nothing? Kinda. Like, how do you deal with that as a superhuman being? How do you deal with that? I want to tell that story. I think what makes it different is a lot of comic books, a lot of issues like All-Star Superman, even, you know, The Dark Knight Returns brushes with a little bit of Superman. And I think with those stories, we get a glimpse of the other side, but we don't really, like, this is devoted to it. Like, I think the first words that come out of Dark Hero's mouth is the F word. And it's because I'm setting a tone, not because I just like to use it, but I'm letting you know, like, oh, this is not your grandfather's superhero.
Mhm.
This is what happens. And what really spawned the moment was I had a vision in my head, like, you know, sometimes it's really hard to be nice and do the right thing constantly if you're getting shit on. And like, what if one time Superman saw somebody getting mugged, but like he just like he's just full of disdain, and he's just like, I don't really give a shit. This is useless. And he just, instead of saving this person, he just watches it happen and just kind of floats away. Like, what does that do to their psyche? Has it changed him? Like, how many times can you save people and deal with all, like, are you going to always be able to save people? No, you know that you can't always save people. So like these little moments where, like, you know, Dark Hero's not an evil person, but he didn't help somebody. He just stood back and let it happen. And I want to know why. And I tell that story.
Hmm.
I tell why a
So it
super
sounds
person would
like
do that.
it's kind of sounds like to me like it's sort of you're playing with those big themes of heroism and what what we've accepted as being like this is what it means to be a hero in comic books and sort of pushing humanity up against them and saying, okay, well, if this character, even though maybe he's an alien who came from another planet to save the earth or whatever, but how would a human deal with this over time? Could he keep up this standard? I mean, that's kind of sounds
No,
like,
you're exactly right. Can you keep up the
yeah.
standard? How much could the, you know, I know that Zack Snyder and Man of Steel kind of touch, you know, and I'm not going to lie, I'm heavily influenced by that. But
Okay, yeah,
um humanity, like, how many times are you going to save the world? Yes, but how many times are, especially in the fickle culture that we're in right now, just so you know, the universe that I do is kind of like a hyper, I'd say it takes place in like an alternate universe. So the universe is a little bit like ours, but like hyper. So we're in a cancel culture right now. We're fed up. Enough is enough.
yeah,
We're in a, like, okay, so let's just say Alpha Man saved the day, but two people died. Well, we live in a culture now where that's not okay anymore. Nobody can die by you saving anybody, and if you can't do that, we're gonna cancel you. And it's
hmm,
like, and it's also about like the way of the people. Like, Alpha Man is extremely bitter and upset and mean because he got to watch culture kind of flip. He went from, you know, oh yeah, he saved the day, but you know, unfortunately, a couple people had to die. But wow, we saved, like, what should have happened in Man of Steel and Metropolis was like everyone was like, God, look at the destruction. I'm like, could you imagine how worse it would have been if he wasn't there? Like, and nobody's focusing on that point. Like,
yeah.
but that's just the way humans are. We're like, no, no, destruction, destruction, bad. And it's almost to a point where he got, you know, he gets disillusioned by it because, and it's also a play on how, like, would we really tolerate, like, and then the human with all these news cycles and people's opinion pieces, and people will be like, you know, well, you know, Alpha Man's a true hero, but you know, we didn't have these crazy psycho people trying, you know, villains of the week popping up trying to take over the world every other week before him. So he was the causality of the situation to begin with, not to parallel, you know, Civil War and Marvel. What Vision said to Tony basically is like, us being has created this shit around us,
Hmm.
so to speak. Excuse my French, sorry.
Yeah,
And
no, I hear you.
we got to deal with that. And comic books have touched upon it, you know. And I'm like, no, more Sokovia Accords. I want to know more about that. I want to see more of that. That's why Civil War was the actual comic book, not the movie. The comic book run changed everything for me, man. Like, I was like, damn, we're playing with some high stakes here now. And that's kind of what I wanted to do with my comic book, was touch upon those things. And what does it really mean to be a hero? And you know what? These heroes aren't heroic. Like, being a hero means, it doesn't mean you're um, not afraid or you don't feel. It's doing things in spite of that that makes you a hero. But
Yeah.
then how long can you take the abuse
Hmm.
before you're a drunk, cynical asshole on a roof talking to a reporter asking for whiskey so he can tell his life story?
Yeah.
That's where we're at, and that's where we're introduced to the character. And then with issue number 2, we go into, okay, I fast forward, rewind the clock to 1982. We talk about the origins of him, where he came from, how he came to be, and basically tell the story about the world falling in love with him because he's the world's first superhero. That's his thing in his universe. He was introduced at the 1982 World's Fair in Knoxville, Tennessee, and he's the world's first Superman, an alpha man. So um
That's really beautiful. I think what you're doing. There's so much story potential there. I feel
oh
like
god, endless, right? It's
because
almost too much. I'm almost like, Chris, how do
yeah,
I nail this down to like simple simplicity? And it's a little hard to do.
yeah, and that's what people, that's what people are battling with. I mean, how many grown adults can look back and think about the idealistic way that we viewed things or the way we saw ourselves doing things? Oh, when I'm grown up, I'm going to be like this and I'm going to do all this, or until you had kids. I got two small kids,
Yeah,
and
I have a daughter myself, and
oh my God,
3-year-old.
I am just like
Yeah.
an angry, irritated mess. Like I thought I was going to be this super dad and like carrying kids on my shoulders all the time. And I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't want to play right now, you know?
No, I hear you. The reality of what life really is compared to the fantasy of what you think it could be, or what you think it should be, or even what it really should be, it can be completely different. And I'm that kind of person, be careful what you wish for type of person. And sometimes I have like asked for things and I wasn't really prepared to handle the consequences of those things. And I think that is an important aspect of being a hero.
Hmm.
And it needs just for me, it needs to be told. But through the story of the comic book, we, as the issues go by, we're introduced to um, other characters in the universe. Alpha Man is our Superman type of character, and I have a Batman type character who's female.
Oh,
Her
okay.
name is Star Knight, and she's a teacher by day and a crime fighting vigilante by night. She kind of gives our world a Bruce Wayne and a Batman. So she's like the Batman of our universe, and they have conflict, obviously.
Hmm.
They have a similar relationship like Bruce and Clark, but she's kind of like the no nonsense,
Hmm.
brutal type, get things done. But she
Yeah.
also does something very commendable. I'm a former teacher myself, so I kind of wanted to put that in the comic book. And
Oh,
I see teachers as superheroes, most of them for the most part, fighting
okay.
the good fight. So I thought I would create a character that was like that, but at night, she's a vigilante kicking some butt, and she comes out of retirement. There's an issue, I think it's issue 3, that's called Star Knight Returns, and not to give away the story, but there's something coming up, and we don't think Alpha Man's up for the challenge. He's in no shape to fight, and he doesn't want to either. So he's really pissed and cynical, and we call upon another hero to help encourage our hero. So I pull another hero out of retirement to help another one, and I'm really excited about that because I think that's where issue 3 kind of kicks off, is where we start to really have a lot of fun with the dualities and the nature of the things in the character. And we have this journalist along for the ride. Her name is Ryan, and she's just like processing all this information because it's been 20 years since anybody's heard of him or seen him. He's like a myth now and a legend,
Oh,
and nobody knows his story, and he's kind of like this myth. And she wants to get that story, but she doesn't know what she's getting herself into either. Like she's walking into um completely, it changes her views too, and from being a doe-eyed journalist trying to like do things to get clicks and likes and stuff like that, and she realizes she got herself into something that's really deeper and darker, but also a little bit more human than she originally thought. Like she was not expecting this guy, and
Yeah.
it's clear in the first issue that she's like thrown back by him, and it isn't until he does something kind of her, like he shows him, like he reveals himself, so to speak, in such a way. I don't want to give it away because I really think it's a funny part in the comic book, the way that he does it. But and then she realizes that, like, okay, this is him, but like it's not what she expected.
Hmm. Well, this sounds really cool. I really love the way that it's kind of gives you an opportunity to it's sort of summarize the journey that comics and superhero characters have been on themselves as society has changed and gone from valuing these ideals to be sort of postmodern now to where there's reigning apathy and and people kind of are just canceling everybody and so yeah, I think it's really cool. So for people now that you've done the Indiegogo, you got the artwork is being completed for issue 1, and people are going to be able to buy digitally. Where's the best place to go for people to be able to follow this project and the other stuff you're doing so they can jump on board with the comic?
So yeah, we have a Twitter page, and we're also on Instagram. If you go to Twitter, you can go to shoot, I can't believe I can't remember my own handle. I think it's at Dark Hero.
Okay. At
Oh
Dark
my god,
Hero.
I'm trying to get my computer up as I'm talking to you, but my mouse wants to be redonkulous.
No, that's okay. Pull it up. Yeah, no worries.
Oh man. So it's at Dark Hero comic book, I believe.
Hmm.
Wow, this is dead air time. Anyway, so Chris, what's wrong with you? Why won't you work?
That's okay. I can edit it.
Okay. Yeah, it's just spinning. Twitter's just spinning. I'm so sorry.
No, no worries. We're trying to do multiple things on these computers. Let's see.
What is wrong with you? My mouse won't.
Dark
You know what?
Heroes.
Dude, I'm getting it on my phone. Fuck it. Like, I'm so sorry. I can't deal with it. My phone works a lot faster than my computer these days. At Dark Hero Comic on Twitter and on Instagram. I believe we are at Dark Hero Comic Book on Instagram as well.
Okay, sweet. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Okay, awesome. So at Dark Hero Comic on Twitter. All
Yep.
right. And Dark Hero Comic Book on Instagram, because Instagram gives you another character or two.
Yes, it allows you to do that.
I know. Yeah, I know how that goes. Okay, awesome. Well, cool, Chris. I really, appreciate you breaking down the story. I think there's going to be a lot of interest from this, and I'm really looking forward to it. And is there any other upcoming projects or things that you're working on that you're excited to tell people about that they could follow other than Dark Hero?
I just launched my podcast, which is Creative Talks with Chris Hicks, where I sit down and talk with all types of creative people through all different types of medium, and just have really cool, interesting conversations with them. Also, give them a chance to share their work, get it out to people that might be interested. Like you, I love talking to other creative people, hearing their passion, hearing their stories, and also having an opportunity to connect with another creative person, because some of the things that we go through, I think some people might not be able to understand what it's kind of like. So I really wanted to give a platform for that. So I launched that on my own. So I separated from my original podcast team and I did my own thing. So you can check that out. Where I'm working with a management team to get it out as to all the podcast places. I don't really know all that stuff, but they'll take care of it. But for right now, I'm launching on YouTube, and you can just type that into your Google machine that everybody has in their pockets, and you can type in Creative Talks with Chris Hicks, and our first episode drops tomorrow. I'm super excited. And also, while issue 2 is kind of being formulated and planned for Dark Hero, I'm working on a short film called Invaqui, which is Latin for Into the Void. It's a short film about finding your humanity out there amongst the stars. The year is 2084, and we have finally figured out how to travel faster than light. Unfortunately, our world is on the brink of war, and we're about to totally destroy ourselves. And our hope for humanity is to embark on this journey that helps create that unites our planet, and become a species that's intergalactic, or multiple solar system species. And the thought is that this person's journey would be a lot like, the first man in space and Neil Armstrong walking on the moon. It'll be one of those events that changes everything and ushers in a new era. And this astronaut is tasked with being the first man to travel faster than the speed of light. And out there amongst the stars, he rediscovers his humanity, his love for the planet, all these things. In the beginning, we meet him. He's very stoic, very militaristic, very duty-oriented kind of guy. He's estranged from his wife, and he has a kid he doesn't see. He's I'm this guy, military guy. But out there amongst the stars, when he's talking to this artificial intelligence that's on the computer, that's a computer artificial intelligence that's on board with him on the ship, he reunites with his humanity. But because it's my kind of a story, there's a twist. There's always a twist.
Okay.
So there's a big twist. I don't want to give it away, but it's like a Twilight Zone twist. So, and I really wanted to tell this story for a long time. What's special about it, though, is I'm doing everything myself. I'll be filming it myself, building the sets myself, acting in it myself, editing it myself, doing everything myself. It's a little bit of a challenge project to me, a little bit of a can I pull it off kind of a thing. But I also feel like it's a really, really, really cool story. And I really want to do some old school film techniques to pull it off. I really want to use matte paintings and models. And so I'm building right now. I'm currently going through the process with my designer on the ship, the Phoenix. And I'm going to have two models made, a big 3-foot model and a smaller one.
Whoa.
And I'm building it right now. Downstairs is a 3-walled green screen. So I'm going to do all the visual effects of the ship myself. And I'm also building the cockpit of the spaceship.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just, hook up cameras all over the place and get all the angles at the same time. And I'll put myself in the driver's seat, and I'm just going to
do it.
Do it. Yeah. So I'm really excited about that one. It's a little, yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah. I mean, I think it's been neat to be around, because I was always a writer ever since I was a kid. And then kind of, I had the period of sending out, a bunch of query letters to production companies and
how was that? How did that go?
Not well.
I feel you, brother. I really do. 'Cause it was tough for me too. It did not go well.
But being around the comic book community has been so cool to see people who are like, you know what, I'm making my comic book. And it just, and there's so much accessibility to creators, like yourself, and even people on the big, publishing labels, all kinds of people who will reach back, and thank you for the appreciation. It's like,
definitely,
it does something to a creative person to be like, hey, you know what, we can, like we were talking about before, it's like, maybe I can't make the $100 million blockbuster, but we can tell this story in a comic book and make all these crazy ideas happen. And even with your movie here now you're talking about, it's just cool to see creative people getting after it and saying, I'm going to do this,
Yeah, I feel the same way. And that's the thing. I want to inspire people too.
Yeah.
I've been playing that story close to the chest a little bit, but I also want to be able to tell people like, hey man, if you want it bad enough, you can learn it, you can do it. I accredit my story because I've always wanted to, I'm just enamored with Star Wars. I think I go back and watch the making of Star Wars, like all of them, all the makings, like it's like 16 hours. I go back and watch it like at least once a month. Even though I've seen it a million times, I still learn something new every single time I watch it.
Wow.
I love it. And I'm so obsessed with the old school filmmaking tactics, with the model making and the matte paintings, and how that is movie magic to me. Because one of my favorite movies is Aliens, but you know how many those are models and those are fucking miniatures, and that's a matte painting in the background, and that's rear projection, but you sure as hell can't tell. Like, I love that stuff, and I'm thinking, can I do that as a filmmaker? Do I have the skill? I don't know. We'll find out, won't we? So so I've always wanted to do that, and I thought it would be really kind of like a fun old school thing. I could say I did,
Yeah, totally. That's going to be an awesome experience. Well, Chris, super cool to talk to you, man. I'm really excited for your project. It's
Thank you.
Dark Hero that's coming out, available digitally in March. But make sure you follow the handles that he mentioned to stay up to date on the latest info. I'll put those back on the screen here so everybody can jump on that. And then, yeah, and then he's got a film coming out. So yeah, follow Chris. Check out the podcast, Creative Talks with Chris Hicks, for more and more creativity, more cool ideas. I think there's a lot of cool stuff ahead for Chris. So, all right, man. I appreciate your
Thank-
time. We'll talk again.
oh yeah, definitely. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, you got it. Peace, brother.
Take care, man.